Well, at this point, next year we'll be fresh off the first season of the Alliance of American Football. 18's 10 weeks starting next February 9th. And the man who founded this league, Charlie Eberson, right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Look at us here,
What's
brother.
up, Rich?
Look at us talking.
14 years ago, you and Susie took me in off the streets for my first Thanksgiving away from home.
That's what we do. That guy over there he knows that treatment.
I've been to several.
This is how you should be introduced to Los Angeles.
It really is.
Yeah.
So it's good to see you, sir.
You too, man.
So without that Thanksgiving, this would never have happened.
Not in a million years. That was it. That was that vegan turkey.
Hold on a second.
That later became Giselle's dress.
So, all right, let's sink our teeth right into this right away, Charlie. Why? Why this league? Why?
You know how long my relationship's been with the NFL. And I think what always shocked me was Super Bowl ends and everything falls off a cliff. There's like 80 million fewer people watch sports on the weekend, starting the weekend after the Super Bowl for 6 months. And 1/3 of all fantasy players stop playing all forms of fantasy. And if you take March Madness out, it's like 40 million people. And so if you did that in any other business, if I told you that, Uber could only operate for 6 months a year and the other 6 months a year, there was just nothing. And I said, hey, I'm going to launch a new Uber in that exact window, you would invest. Everybody would want to get on board. And so football had that. And then on the other side of it was you had this massive group of players. And there are like 28,000 Division I players every year that become available and nowhere to play because there are only 1,200 new spots in the NFL. So we looked at that and it was like, okay, there's obvious. And then the minute that I started talking to Polian and he said, yeah, this is something we should be doing. I'm interested in doing it. It changed. That changed everything. Because my dad said,
yes.
My dad said, talk to Bill to see if you're crazy. And Bill goes, I would co-found this with you. And I called my dad and I was like, does that count as support? He was like, yes. I'm like, all right, well,
that counts as support. And obviously, your dad, Dick Eberson, one of the legends in the television business, sports entertainment, also behind the XFL, and you were the director of the 30 for 30 on that. So you obviously know what worked there and what might not work here. And that obviously is about the players here.
Yeah.
You need to use your Uber analogy. If I'm used to driving one of the luxury cars that Uber's driving around, I might not get that app in the off season if I've got to drive a jalopy. So who are the players that you're identifying here?
One of the things that Bill really opened my eyes to, and a lot of the other people that we brought in, so it's Bill Polian, but then running football ops is J.K. McKay and Troy Polamalu and Jared Allen and Justin Tuck and Heinz Ward. One of the things that became really clear early on was that getting great players is more a science than an art. And so if you look at, we're going to run our draft 3 or 4 weeks after the NFL does its final cut down. So you have 900 players who become available September 3rd this year. Mm-hmm. We're running our season from the week after the Super Bowl to the NFL draft. So for players, there's nowhere else, there's nothing else to be doing in that window. And you want to show off your wares because if you've been cut by the NFL or whatever, that's a great opportunity. And then the third thing is you got to put great coaches on the field. Something that hasn't really been done, certainly not since the USFL, but in the last 25 years. And so as we've rolled these coaches out, we rolled out Spurrier, Coach Steve Spurrier, the head ball coach in Orlando, Brad Childress with Michael Vick as his offensive coordinator. In about 48 hours, we're going to announce our head coach in Memphis. And you're going to see that the pattern here is that these guys either coached or played in Super Bowls or they won national championships. We want to put the best talent on the field off the sideline so the guys between the lines can actually perform.
So Charlie Eberson, the founder of the Alliance of American Football, I say co-founder. Is Bill technically a co-founder?
Definitely co-founder.
Okay, so a co-founder.
It would be insane if I launched a football league without Bill Polian.
Well, I don't want to get you in trouble with Bill
No,
Polian.
please don't.
I've been on the business end of that way back in the day at combines, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
We don't want to do that. So for those who may not know, where are these teams going to go?
So we've announced the first 3 cities. We've announced Orlando, Atlanta, and Memphis. And we'll announce the last 5 cities over the next 4 weeks, I think.
Okay.
My dad told me that all good stories should be dripped out very slowly. So we're rolling them out, one at a time.
Did you personally call Spurrier? Who twisted his arm to do this?
Steve called J.K. So J.K. McKay, who is our head of football operations with Troy Polamalu, played with Steve in Tampa, and Steve was his quarterback. And when we announced, he called and said, "I want to coach for you." Or no, sorry, not when we announced. When we were doing this several months ago,
Yes.
we didn't. I don't. To this day, I don't know how Steve knew what we were doing. But he called and said, "I really want to do this." And that was of all the coaches we have. That was the most like emphatic, which is part of the reason we announced Orlando first. Was he cannot be contained.
He cannot
be contained.
Well, we were just joking when that piece of news came out, Charlie, is that we've got to our right a putting green from the Callaway corner. Would you want one of those on the sideline to keep him occupied during downtime of the game?
I think that we got him a lot of extra visors.
Okay.
And they've got extra bounce in them. So when he gets play to play, he can bounce him off the ground and pick him back up in one motion.
As you know, it's an entertainment product that you're putting out on the field.
It is.
We need to see that sort of thing.
It is.
Of course.
And if no better example of it would be Steve Spurrier.
Of course. So when it all comes down to it, how has the NFL received this news from you?
Look,
Charlie?
To us, the NFL is complimentary. Like we look at a relationship with the league as we look at the MLS and the Premier League soccer, is that not only should they coexist, but they should be able to support each other and help each other. And so one of the things about obviously having Bill at the top of this, but also the types of coaches we're bringing in and the advisors that we have working with the league are about, really messaging to the NFL that we have zero interest in competing with them. That's a fundamental waste of time. Mainly because we're in a different season. Mm-hmm. But second of all, for all of the ills or lack of ills around the NFL, ultimately you're talking about the most dominant sports entertainment product in the United States by a wide margin. If you took the next 4 closest sports and you added them together, you'd still have only 1/6 of the rating of an average NFL game. And so we look at them as somebody that is, like I said, complimentary.
And how do they view you, though?
It's been, look, you know that, you more than anybody knows how positive a relationship I've had with the league for a really long time.
Right.
We're not in Atlanta by accident. Like we're not going to go in charging into what is maybe the most powerful owner in the league and say like, oh, we're going to set up in your backyard without at the very least knowing that we're not, let's say we're not persona non grata.
So what would you say the average age of the players are going to be? Because the average NFL career, remarkably, is about 4 years long. That's why I always think of whenever I'm at a rookie symposium, that I look across that room of all the drafted players, 256 men, big men on campus too, from their campuses. Half of them will have to choose something else to do in their career 3.5 to 4 years on average after they start playing it. Are those the guys that you're targeting? I mean, who are you guys targeting for this?
First of all, that number is an average based on who actually plays, like who actually gets out and plays on the field. That's how they measure that stat.
Yes.
When you talk about players that just make the roster, the number drops significantly. So you're talking about an average age, it's probably like 2021 that are starting in the NFL because of the 3-year rule. And by the time they get out, they're only 23, 24 years old. And one of the things that we look at is we look at football as a moment in your life, not your whole life. And so a lot of what we're building is a support structure. So every year you play in our league is a 1-year scholarship to vocational or secondary education for a career beyond football. Career training, similar to the program that I launched with the White House 3 years ago with First Lady Michelle Obama about training veterans. We're going to be using a lot of the same programs with players. And then last but not least, by putting Troy at the top of this, Polamalu, one of the things we want to focus on is longevity. Troy, in one of by far the most brutal positions in all of professional sports, was able to have a 12 or 13-year career in the NFL entirely predicated around how he took care of himself. And one of the things that you'll see over the next couple of months is our training program, our nutrition program, our health and wellness, and our medical program is unlike anything that's ever existed in professional sports.
Well, I want to take a break here, Charlie, and when we come back, one of the things about the XFL that there were some aspects of the XFL that did leave a positive mark on the way that the NFL was presented, for sure. We never saw anybody go with "He hate me" on the back of a jersey, but there are and I heard an idea that you and I talked about off air after I read about it that I think the NFL should adopt already. And I want to that's a tease for the audience.
An excellent tease.
And for the television audience, when we come back, we're going to stroll down memory lane of my greatest reality show achievement. It's my only reality show achievement.
But it was great.
Man, it was.
It was great.
A great escape.
And I have a great anecdote for you about
For the Great Escape?
Yes.
Oh, my gosh.
I love that show. It was so great.
Man, for me to be able to put on a bomber jacket professionally, I never had that opportunity before or since. What gives?
Maybe you should wear one on the show. On this show.
should.
On this show. Wear one on.
That's what Dion told me, that I should get my hair done. And I'm like, I don't want to get my hair done. I've got to go back on the show. He goes, it's your show. You could wear a hat for 2 weeks.
Nothing's going to
I
happen.
could have shown up at the Met Gala last night. By the way, the Mets had a big game last night.
That's, again,
it's not the gala.
Not the gala.
All right, Charlie Ebersol here on the Rich Eisen Show. More with Charlie when we come back, with PJ Carlissimo still to come. The Alliance of American Football coming to a town near you, potentially, next February 9th, 2019. CBS, right, is your partner? The Tiffany Network, CBS?
Super Bowl the weekend before on CBS. Then we premiere the following weekend on Saturday night.
Okay.
8 p.m. on CBS.
Have you identified announcers yet? Have you gone down that road
what's
yet?
your availability?
I am free on February the 9th, 2019.
It's excellent. Let me just call...
Two-man booth.
Excuse me.
I mean,
I don't know who you are anymore, sir. Do I know your name over
How
there?
quickly it happens.
That was real fast. You turned on a dime on me.
Yeah.
Oh, we got to have fun.
Yeah, February 9th, 2019. Yeah, I'll be there.
CBS. Yeah,
No,
excellent.
CBS. America's most watched network, from what I've heard.
For quite some time now. Yeah.
And so, all right, you say you're going to announce a coach in Memphis. Give me a hint. Give me a hint.
We believe very deeply in the alliance of players and the game, and so we think that should be reflected in the coaches.
Okay, so somebody who's related to the Tennessee area?
Sure, but I wouldn't focus on that aspect
So
if you're
it's
going to
not
get
Peyton
correctly.
Manning. Okay, who else would it
Not
be?
Jeff Fisher.
Well, hold on. I didn't say anything about not being Peyton Manning. No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
Peyton didn't want to do the Thursday night games because he wanted to come coach 10 weeks. And
I got a good one. And this man is a really good poker face. He's really good at this, but I'm going to throw it. Eddie George.
oh, God, that's a good name. That is a good name.
Come on.
That is a good name.
You hate me.
With,
Come on, give me the
with
name.
defensive coordinator Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
That would be great.
Right. Because
Hey.
season 3 of Ballers or season 4 of Ballers is actually going to be them coaching the Memphis team. That's the twist.
But that's
the way.
a great
People
idea
don't realize.
for a season.
Yeah, people don't realize that he doesn't want to own anymore. He just wants to
Right,
coach.
that's
You know
great.
who his roommate at the U was Sapp.
Yeah.
Him and Sapp were on the same defensive line together. The Rock.
Warren Sapp.
That team was crazy. There was also one former SNL star was on that team as well.
On
that U team. That team was insane. That team was totally insane.
Look it up on the Google.
and then
while I
they go to
continue.
Notre Dame and they embarrass us on our own.
Of course, you have to have talk there. By the way, you know I'm glad that, of course, you went Notre Dame right there, and you're a Notre Dame guy.
well,
and,
and Giants. So
that's there you go. You know, Michigan and Notre Dame, we renew rivalry because Notre Dame decided to play us again.
thankfully.
Yeah.
Thankfully. Well, not what happened was not having that win on the calendar each year was bad for our schedule.
Oh my God.
So we had to do it.
Oh my word. Oh my word.
pretty great.
Speaking of fiction, when was the last time you saw Rudy? Hey now. Okay. Wow.
By the way, you know what I love about the Rudy story? Every time you go to
That
Michigan,
it's fake, that it's false.
every time you go to Michigan, they go, "He sucked." I'm like, "Yeah, that was the point of the movie. The only difference is he would have started at Michigan."
See, now that's more false stuff. That's more false stuff. I mean, we're almost, and I know I'm really hitting. I'm really
great.
digging in here too. It's almost as fake as the Schilling bloody sock. Almost as fake.
No, that's true. That is totally fake. That is food dye. That is food dye
As the
number
days long.
5.
He has a scar on his ankle. He had surgery twice.
Got it.
Who hasn't? But he didn't have it because of that.
Who hasn't? See, that's why Charlie Ebersol's league is going to be
Look,
very
man.
successful. He
Look,
understands
man.
what works and what isn't.
You're
and how
still
to make-
not over 3-0. It's all good. I get it.
So the elimination of kickoffs and onside kicks, and I got the elimination of kickoffs, but the elimination of onside kicks, I remember I
Which
called
would
you up.
you? Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Which would you rather see? Would you rather see a hands team who you have not seen the whole game decide the entire fate of the game, or watching, let's just say, out of left field, Tim Tebow on his own 35 going 4th and 10, and if he converts, they go for it.
So let me just
Hot take
nail this
fire
down.
emoji.
Hold on a minute. There's two things. There's two things right there. There's two things right there. So instead of an onside kick, it's one attempt at getting a first down from 10 yards away
From your own 35.
from your own 35.
You
So
lose it, you give it up.
You give it up. But if you make it, you get to keep the ball.
Correct.
That's instead of an onside kick.
I do love that idea.
That's what I'm saying the NFL should adopt. Because the NFL is would love to get rid of kickoffs. I think for the safety aspect.
Statistically, you have the exact same chance of converting a 4th and 15 as you do getting an onside kick. And so what we looked at is think about the number of games that get decided by onside kicks, and it's boring. I mean, it's not an interesting play. You're putting a ton of pressure on a guy who hasn't been on the field basically at all, and then you're basically running a suicide play. I would much rather see it on the quarterback who it's been on and on the defense to actually stand up and do it. And then you get another drive. Like that's what you're looking for. You're looking for the 2-minute.
Sold. I love that idea, and I think the NFL should pilot it for the NFL and do it. Now
It'll be like the Sky Cam with the XFL.
That was exactly right. The Sky Cam and also the Steady Cam.
That's right.
Running into the huddle
and miking players.
The XFL did all of that.
Yeah.
And now we see that all the time. The NBC, your dad's Sunday Night Football package had an entire game on Thursday night shot from the
Sky Cam.
The Sky Cam.
Yeah. And now they have the 2 Sky Cams, so you high and low. You don't, yeah. No, I mean, look, here's the thing about the broadcast. The broadcast was effectively unchanged for 70 years. You had 3 cameras. You had at the 20, the 50, and the 20 up in the rafters, and it would just follow. And then they put the Sky Cam over XFL. I said the biggest mistake made it out of XFL was that NBC and WWE didn't take an ownership stake in Sky Cam. Because it didn't exist, basically, right? It had been run. My dad had used it once in the 80s over an Orange Bowl, and other than that, it had never been used. And then the next season, Sky Cam was over every NFL game.
Well, before I let you go, I could not also help but notice the quarterback you just plucked out of thin air is the guy that you prefer to see take that 4th down play. You
mentioned the Mets, and it just immediately went to my head.
Tebow, is that would you want him in the league?
We want the best available players.
Would you want Tim Tebow in this league?
We want the best available players.
Hold on a second.
Is
now.
Tim not one of the best available players?
That is debatable, but in terms of name recognition,
I mean,
there is no better name you could have associated. Johnny Manziel, would you be interested in having him?
Yeah, we want quality talent. At the end of the day, here's the thing, right? What blows my mind is that you only have 18 gigs in the NFL, 1,800 positions, right, that are getting filled.
Right.
You got a lot of really good players that are sitting on the sidelines not getting reps. So we want to see them. And look, at the end of the day, we expect our players to live up to their discipline and all the other stuff. But at the end of the day, you want to put the best, most entertaining talent on the field to play good football. And, Spurrier said it best about Tebow. How great would it be to see 2 Florida Heisman Trophy winners on the field at the same time? I'm just saying.
At Charlie Ebersol on Twitter, the Alliance of American Football, as you matriculate this ball down the field, come back.
And at the AAF.
At the AAF. Okay, very good. Not AAF.
At the AAF.
Just like Ohio State right there.
Ugh. Why do we have to do that?
At least we share that.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.